Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Extra Credit, and today we're going to be talking about...
Oh, Mr. K, I just found this guy on YouTube, and his name is John Green, and he makes history videos like yours, except his are way better, because they have, like, animations and music and, like, really cool...
Okay, yes, 13-year-old me, I know John Green's videos are way better than mine, but please keep two things in mind. Number one, John Green is a best-selling young adult author, which means that he has billions of dollars to spend on this stuff. And number two, his videos use vocabulary that's way over the head of the average middle school student, whereas my videos are going to be way easier to understand.
Yeah, but his have, like, really cool graphics and animation and all kinds...
Okay, be quiet, we're starting. Okay, so for our very first episode today, we're going to be talking about this idea of what is history and why should I care? I think lots of students see history as just a bunch of names and dates and places that really don't have any connection to their lives at all, and I can totally get why some people feel that way because some of the ways that their teachers taught them history made them wish that they were history. But the thing about history is that it's actually way bigger than that. History, in one definition, would be anything that has ever happened to anyone, anywhere, period. Okay? I mean, that's a pretty massive definition of history, right? So if you say you don't care about history, what you're really saying is you don't care about anything at all, ever, which is a little bit concerning, and if that's where you're at, I think that you need more help than this video can give you. But there's also another way of thinking about history, and this sort of narrows it down a little bit, and that is history as the human story. In other words, if you want to know why you are the way you are, why you think the way you do, why you act the way you do, why you believe and feel the way you do about things, all those answers, or at least many of them, are located in history. So if you really want to know about who you are as a person, I think it's worth it to study some history, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here on this channel. So to prove this to you, that history can really teach us why we are the way we are, I want to ask you a question. Which is better, democracy or dictatorship? Now, just to review the definitions here, democracy, for those of you who don't know, comes from a Greek word that means power of the people, and basically refers to societies where people get to vote to choose their leaders. We have things like human rights. We can have a voice in determining our laws and that kind of thing. That's a democracy. Dictatorship, on the other hand, comes from a Greek word that means one guy gets to make the rules for everyone, and it goes really well, said no one ever. You see, even that should give you a clue as to which one I personally think is better, and I think most of us probably share that view. You see, the thing about democracy is that in Canada, our country was founded as a democracy in 1867. If you look south of the border at America, America was founded, that means created, as a democracy in 1776. That means that North America has had some kind of democratic history for almost 250 years already. That's like twice as old as Dumbledore. So in other words, democracy seems natural to us. Therefore, we think it's the best kind of government. But take dictatorships, for example. Now, the most famous dictator in history, of course, is Adolf Hitler, who was the Chancellor of Germany from 1933 to 1945 and who led the world into the most destructive and horrific war of all time. Now, the crazy thing is that in 1933, Hitler was chosen as Chancellor of Germany, and 75% of the Germans actually wanted some kind of dictator. Now, that doesn't mean that 75% of them wanted Hitler himself, but they were prepared to go along with one guy making all the rules for everyone. You might think that's kind of crazy, but keep in mind that as of 1933, Germany had only been a democracy for 15 years. Back in the past, in Germany's history, Germany had been an empire ruled by the Kaiser, the king or the emperor of Germany. But then in 1918, after Germany lost World War I, democracy was this thing kind of forced on Germany from the outside, kind of like when your parents make you wear that shirt on picture day. And so Germans really didn't have any particular love for democracy, and then when that system started to fall apart, they wanted a dictator. Because again, Germany had only been a democracy for 15 years. That means if German democracy was a person, it would still have braces and not be old enough to drive. So that might explain why, to the Germans, dictatorship seemed natural. They actually wanted that over democracy because dictatorship to them was the natural state of the way things should be. Now, this may seem like kind of a heavy topic for our very first episode, so let's kind of switch things over to the lighter side now and talk about a question that I'm sure is on your mind, and that is, why do we wear pants? Now, aside from the really obvious reasons that you can think of for those of us who live here in Canada, this still doesn't kind of make a lot of sense, because even in places in Europe that are really nice and sunny, like France, we'll say, even in France, they still wear pants because it rhymes. France and pants. But actually, this is kind of weird, because if they consider themselves the cultural descendants of the Romans, what's with the pants? Why don't we still walk around in togas, right? Well, this all has to do with this group of people called barbarians. And yes, I will use air quotes as many times as I can. The barbarians were these people who lived outside of the Roman Empire. The Romans called them barbarians simply because they didn't really like the way they looked or smelt or talked or really anything about them at all. However, we wear pants now because the barbarians actually defeated the Romans, took over the empire, spread their culture around Europe. Eventually, Europeans came and settled here in North America, and many of you watching nowadays are descended from those European settlers who wore pants, and now we wear pants too. Crazy! You just learned something really, really important for your day-to-day life, because if you're in my class here, you better be wearing pants. So in other words, you are dressed appropriately right now because of a massive series of military invasions and refugee crises that took place 1,500 years ago on the other side of the world. Well, that, and your mom said she'd kill you if you wore a toga. Thanks for watching, everyone. It was really fun to make this first episode. Looking forward to making some more later on as well. Your challenge for this week is to see if you can figure out the nerdy history/literary reference on my t-shirt. Stay tuned for your next episode, which is probably going to come next week. And for now, keep on being the wonderful students that you are. We will see you later.